Coming up on today's DLS Stars podcast, we have draft expert from Daily Faceoff, Stephen Ellis, joining. And some guy that you may have heard of signed a contract extension. You know, Jamie Benn? Let's get to it right now here on DLS.
Get ready, boys.
This is the DLS Stars podcast, brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. And by Happiest Hour, your home base and the best place to catch all of your favorite sports. The ultimate spot with 50-plus beers and 40-plus TVs for all the big moments every single game day. Happiest Hour, your favorite spot for Dallas sports. And as we welcome you inside the lounge studio, we will get to our full show today. Before we do, on this Thursday, let's talk about the Die Hard $36 Make Your Move sale going on right now. It started a couple of days ago, and it's running through both the NBA draft, which began yesterday, Cooper Flag Day, and then the NHL draft and into free agency. So I think you have at least until the 4th of July. Don't wait, though. Scan that QR code. Join today. Go to alldlls.com/intro to capitalize on the best offer you can get to sign up to be a diehard for your first year if you haven't been before, and you also get to pick a t-shirt of your choice. Do we? We have a new Cooper. So our boss, who likes to talk even though he's never on the mic.
Champagne.
Well, champagne for Luds. I'm sure that's nice and chilled. But
good.
we have a new Cooper Flag shirt apparently. I don't know if Elijah has it, but
That's Andre.
we'll check it out. So it's Thursday. It's
That's
June
$18.99.
26th. This is the DLS Stars podcast on a Thursday. It is our last regular show of the week because we have a draft show tomorrow night, and that'll run from 6 o'clock all the way through the end of the first round of the draft. And then on Saturday, we will do a draft recap show, which will be going live somewhere in between 2 and 3 o'clock-ish, we think, depending on how long day 2 of the draft goes. But somewhere in there, we'll be jumping on, and then we talk about the Stars, because the Stars most likely will have picks.
You put an Alka-Seltzer in.
We got Craig Ludwig enjoying a little bubbly on a Thursday. We have Sam Nestler about to go fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And, of
Go
course, our
Mavs.
producer is Elijah Smith. I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us. We have Daily Faceoff associate editor and prospect analyst Stephen Ellis joining us on the next segment for about a half an hour. There's the Cooper Flag shirt.
Ooh,
that's
that's
pretty
nice.
cool. I
I like
like
the
that.
color.
Yeah, that's sharp. And we'll talk a little bit about the Stars coaching search. We are keeping in mind that it could even be something in the next hour. We don't know. But right now we have to talk about Jamie Benn because we did an emergency pod this morning. Our favorite thing to do because the Stars captain signed an extension. 1-year deal. Sam, I don't know if you have the terms in front of you, but if you don't, get them ready.
Okay.
Because Jamie Benn, as we all expected, Luds, right? Even the announcement today, it wasn't a surprise at all. It was, yeah, okay. That sounds sort of what we thought. I wondered if they might have had him at a little higher. So the fact that he's willing to take basically a vet minimum and then performance bonuses, which Sam will highlight in a minute, is good for the team. But none of this was a surprise. Jamie said he wanted to be here. Jim Nill adamantly said he'll be here as long as he wants to be the Stars. And there's no change in captain in the near future, it seems.
Yeah, at least for the next year. We'll
Right.
see how his year goes, and you never know. It could be 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, and so. But no, I'm happy that Jamie's back, and we talked on our emergency podcast today about. It seems like Jamie can be a little polarizing around here, right? I mean, there's some fans that think he, this and that, and the other ones that thinks he's this and that. I said today, if you just go back and listen to Matt Duchesne, when he was talking about Jamie, when we had him on here, and you can really get a sense of how the team feels about Jamie, and that's that's what's probably the most important at this time right now, this juncture in his career, in his game. Is he the same guy at 25? No. And he knows he's not the same guy. And I also had said here a couple of weeks ago, I just think that if, and now he is back, Jamie comes back here, he may be a different player when he comes back. He may be a more motivated player, because when you get older, you have to still, you got to fight your way into the lineup. You got to fight your way to get a shift every time and make sure that you're not an anchor out there. And I just think that the way Jamie has approached the game and his career and how he's fought battles for his teammates, he's going to be the same guy. But again, he's not going to be any faster. But I think you're going to find him to be a little bit more like Jamie used to play a few years ago. And again, and I think the biggest thing for me will be how he progresses throughout the year. And again, that'll have a lot to do with the minutes and situations and things like that. So I'm happy he's back.
I was going to say, is there any of it where it's like a prove it, because he's got 1 year now? So if he wants to keep playing, like this was a known thing, right? He was going to come back. This was the end of the big contract. Going forward to next year, that's a whole different story. And I think Jamie Benn wants to prove to himself, his team, and this organization he can be more than just a 1 year deal and then be pushed into retirement or pushed somewhere else. I think he wants to prove this year he's got a few more years left. He's got that fire in him, especially if they don't win the Stanley Cup this year.
And there's other motivation too. The contract itself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I know it's games played, but Jamie's not going to just go through the motions to get to the $500,000 after 20 or after 30 or whatever the number is when he's got to hit those marks. So, but I just think Jamie's going to be a motivated guy, and a lot of it, or some of it, may have to do with some of the comments that have been made, and just say, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. I will be that guy. Again, I don't know how much these guys get dialed into any of the things that is said on the outside, but I'm excited to see the player that hopefully he comes back and just kind of maybe turns the clock back a year or two or three.
Yeah, so that the terms that you were just talking about for Jamie, very similar to Taves, with obviously the lesser. I think Taves was $2 million base, and then the bonus. But Jamie gets $1 million base salary, and then he gets, as Les would say, and he gets a $500K bonus at 20 games played, 30 games played, 50 games played, 60 games played. And then if they win the Western Conference Final, he gets $500 again. And if they win the Stanley Cup, another $500. So he could get anywhere from the $1 million, barring, God forbid he gets an injury or something like that, all the way up to $4 million, basically, if they win the Stanley Cup.
I think you should also explain that after 35 years old and the bonuses, that they don't count to anything this year.
Yeah. So they can. I think the way it works is if the Stars are under the cap for this season, they'll use some of those bonuses on this year. They'll use all of it if they have it.
If they can fit it, right?
Yeah, if they can fit it. If it doesn't, anything they can't, it'll go over to next year. So it does help the Stars a little bit to, if they needed to, push as far to the cap like they have been now for 2 years as they possibly can, and push that to next season when they may have some more room.
Yeah, it's a good bit of flexibility to be able to, again, defer money, really, like they did with Joe Pavelski's contract, ding. And in doing so, it allows you to give Jamie Benn probably more of the contract money he thinks he deserves, or that we say, okay, this is market value. Because look, I know Jamie isn't necessarily the same player he was a few years ago, but he's not a $1 million player.
Yeah.
Especially with the leadership he brings and the physicality and everything like that. So, but it allows you to spread that out. The cap is going up each of the next 3 years. So, yes, it does eat into the following year's cap if you do have those performance bonus overages, but that allows for them to, right now, they're currently under the cap. They only have 10 forwards under contract. So
they are.
To deal with.
According to Puckpedia, they had 980,000.
Yeah, 980. Yeah,
not a whole lot.
Right, and so we were talking.
That's Maverick forwards.
It's Maverick Borg.
Well, we were talking about the emergency pod this morning. Of there has to be some things that adjust, because if Jamie Benn's on your third or fourth line, you don't feel like you've taken a step back in the roster construction compared to where you were last season. Although they did add. Right, adding Granlund at the deadline made their roster even better, made him even more deep. But they most likely won't be able to re-sign Evgeny Dodonov. I don't know if they want to or not, but if they could, if they wanted to, I don't know if they'd be able to with whatever he would ask. There is, I think, a very decent chance you'll see Colin Blackwell re-signed. I don't know if Blackwell, because he played so well in the playoffs, might be looking for a little bit bigger salary bump. He's totally his right for that. But he would
Was he on $775 last year?
I thought he was on $1 million. I can look it up.
Okay.
But he was really cheap. He might have been. Was he on the minimum?
I feel like he was on the minimum.
Let's take a look. Well, since we're all here and talking about it, I thought he was $775.
Okay.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought wondering if he was a little bit higher because he is, 32. But Luds, we were really happy with his play all year, and then in the playoffs, right? But you can add other guys there. The big question is, right now, because you traded Mason Marchment away, you seem to be missing a top 6 left winger. And I don't think Jamie Benn at his current stage in his career is the guy that can he do that for games here and there? Sure, but you're going to take a guy that you've been slowly trimming time away from his time on ice every game, and suddenly go, hey, you're going to play 18, 19 minutes again, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jamie's game ultimately ended down on the 4th line, so I don't expect Jamie to go and work his butt off and be a number in the top 6. And I don't think he expects that either. Can he get up there? Yeah, and there may be times when he will play up there, but I don't think. I think that if Jamie ends up being in a top 6 left winger, there may be other issues with the team.
Yeah. I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's the part that we're gonna be watching over here is for trades during the draft. Hopefully, there's a trade during the draft, so we have something to talk about. But with all that stuff going on, it's going to be 2 ways they can go about it. They're either going to know they have to upgrade, and that means trading people away, trying to open up caps. I mean, they have to open up space anyway, but trying to trade away, make some more space, and find someone to fill that, whether it's Granlund or someone else, or they're thinking internally, let's re-sign Matej Blumel, and we put him up on a second line, believe that he can make the transition after leading the AHL in scoring, or Ritzkovian can make that jump. That's going to be the tough part here is like the Stars don't need – I'm a big believer they have enough skill the way they are. They don't need a Mitch Marner on their second line. I think they need someone that can be on that line and keep up with that line or top line, whatever it might be. But they can fill that for a cheaper way. And I feel like that's the way it's going to end up going just because of the position they're in.
Luds, let me ask you about Blumel, because we have seen him over the last couple of seasons play a handful of games. He had a great season in the AHL. Again, we've talked about this with the likes of Stankoven and Bork, Ritzkovian. That's great, but they've got to come up here and do it here, right? Just because you have success in the AHL does not necessarily mean you're going to be able to translate that at the National Hockey League level. We all get that. If you looked at the roster as it is and you added Blumel as okay, you can play the left side, you can score goals, you can go to the net, are you okay with that to start the year? I'm not asking if it's going to be your playoff roster, but are you okay giving him at least a shot at training camp to earn that spot, or do you want to see them add something else to that top 6?
Well, I mean, this is nothing against Blumel, but I want him to see add something. Again, I think while he was here, and can he play a few games? But that's one thing. But if you have to show that you get a steady diet and you get quality scoring chance, you put pucks in the net. If that's what you are, I'm not sure. Did he not get 1 goal while he was here? And he did not put it in the net himself.
No,
he went in off a couple
scored
skates.
2. One of them got reversed, and then he scored the second one the next game. I don't remember what the second goal was, though.
Yeah, but it went off 2 different skates.
I don't think it was a goal scorer's goal.
Which doesn't mean that he can't play. What I'm saying is, for me to answer your question, I would have to say incomplete. Like I didn't see a guy that fits into your top 6 right away.
Yeah,
doesn't mean he can't, but I just think that and I don't know if you can go into a season with the expectations that we all have and say he's your number 2 left winger. I think if that's the case, then you weren't able to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. And I would say that if Blumel is in the top 6, did the team take a step back?
Yeah, wouldn't you rather see him make a bottom 6 role and then earn his way up because of good play as opposed to just giving him that spot? Same with Maverick Bork, right?
That's the only way for me that that's how I'm going to, if I want to get excited about this team, my point is that, yes, he would be in your bottom 6. He might be, number 12.
Yeah.
And be there. But I'm just saying, like, if you end up having Ritzkovian and you have Blumel and you have those guys in your top 9, in your middle 6 or something like that, I don't know if we're saying this is the team that we expect, to get further than we did last year.
So without spending a whole another segment, because we're almost out of time and we have got to get to our guest, Stephen Ellis, in the next segment, but is the assumption or the presumption from all of us that they have to find a way to move cap space to bring in another offensive player, another forward, Dumba and or Lyubushkin or whatever else they decide to do to try to round that out? It's not just coming up from the minors.
I think it would be much better if they did. However, I can also see them punting it and saying, we're going to go with what we have. We're going to see what we have in Ritzkovian, Blumel if he comes back, and punting that along to a few months of the season.
Bork can play center. Beck can play center. They have guys like Blumel. Well, Blumel's unsigned. They'd have to re-sign him. He's a free agent. But Ritzkovian, etc. Could they bump up Sam Steele to play as a left winger?
Well, here we are. Are we talking about a Stanley Cup contender then?
I mean,
let's just say the same team comes back.
At the start of the season,
let's say the same team comes back.
Yeah.
Are they going to get to that knock on the door and they're going to end up where they're at?
Maybe.
So are we improving our team by not making any moves, with the exception of adding 3 players that played in the minors? And again, nothing against those guys.
Yeah,
but they need to get some seasoning in them too.
Yes.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, I mean, the argument would be Harley took a step with the Four Nations and what he did in the back half of the year. So you've got 2 number ones. You got Heiskanen and Harley. Lindell's the same. You hope Bischel takes a step. You hope Lundqvist takes a step. So that you're looking, sir, would the defense be an improvement? You lose Cody Ceci, maybe. And then up front, you have Rantanen now for a whole season plus 7 more years after that. You hope that Maverick Bork maybe takes a step. So there's a couple of those, but you're right. It's not a win the offseason kind of feeling. But then again, with the Stars, with their whole contract stuff, as we talked about, we got to get to Steven, but
they got pushed out of the 3rd round.
Yeah. But they also beat 2 really good teams to get there.
The goalie won that.
Okay. But that's good.
God, Jake Ottinger was great, and Mikko came in and carried the offense. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's what happened.
All right. Up next, Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff will join us to talk a little NHL Draft, which begins tomorrow night right here on DLLS.
Now we're going to talk about sweaty balls after that whole first segment.
Sweaty in here.
Mando is a men's deodorant brand that's focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. Mando overtly calls out more colorful parts of the men's body, such as pits, belly buttons, butt cracks, your beanbag, and the ever-popular taint. The taint, that is, a.k.a. Grundle.
I like the beanbag. That's funny.
Beanbag,
Or nachos. Anyway, their sweet scents are geared towards men with options like bourbon leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji. I don't know, you smell like a mountain, apparently. Like
I gotta go. I gotta go smell.
What does Mount Fuji smell like?
I don't know. I gotta go and
don't
smell.
they have
I don't know where that
volcanoes
is.
and things
Where
like
is
that
Mount
there?
Fuji?
Cherry blossoms.
Is
Oh,
that
really?
right?
I don't know. I'm guessing.
All right, clinically proven to block odor all day. I'm trying to stretch this because he doesn't have much of a read, so I'm trying to stretch it. I'm trying to go over here. Mando Starter Pack comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. Use code DLLS at shopmando.com. Just so in case they didn't hear that. That's code DLLS at shopmando.com. A minute 25.
Well done, Les.
Can you do it?
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Can
it.
you do 45?
Appreciate it. I'm going to
Or
talk
less,
for
or
40
35.
seconds,
I can't do
35
math.
seconds about Bud Light. Look, I don't drink a lot of beer, but when I do, I drink Bud Light, and that's because it's the best. That's why it's sitting right here in front of us. Enjoying the game should be easy, so don't overthink it. What to wear? Done. Toss on your favorite jersey. What to drink? Well, or serve your friends. That's easy. Pick up some pizza from your go-to place and grab some Bud Light out of your fridge or go and get it at any store. See, it's that easy. Just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for a clean and crisp taste. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus. Anheuser-Busch. Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Well done.
Thank you.
Before we welcome our guests, we have a rather extravagant super chat on a Thursday of all things. So hit that sounder and let's get to it.
Bing bong.
Ken Murphy Photography with a 99 cup year. That's right.
Wow.
99 and Ludwig. How about that? You boys do a great job for all of us Stars fans during the offseason. You all, or most of you, That's interesting. Deserve a raise. Screw the cap.
He's talking about me when he says most of you. He's saying you guys deserve a raise.
That's nice.
I'm not going to disagree with anything he's saying so far.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank
That is
you,
I'm
a
not
Ken.
very
sure what you're
generous
looking at
super
me.
chat.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
The most of you is just trying to stir up controversy.
Yes, for sure.
All right, let's welcome in our guest who has been waiting patiently now as we drone on about salary cap and all that stuff. It's Stephen Ellis, who is the associate editor and the prospect analyst. We call him draft expert of Daily Faceoff. Stephen, nice to meet you formally. Sam said nice things. Our other host, who's not here today, Sean Shapiro, said you were a horrible human and then laughed and said, no, actually, he's wonderful. We've seen each other quite a bit on the prospect beat. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for having me. And with Sean, he gave me some, because obviously the connections to Detroit. Every time I go there, I make sure to get some pizza recommendations from him because Detroit-style pizza, it's the best.
Really? See, there's some debate around here whether Sean is a lunatic about having the sauce on top of the cheese or not. What do you think, Luds? Are you a Detroit-style pizza guy?
I actually don't listen to Sean that often. So
Is that what that means? Is
I
that what the
don't
Detroit
even
style
know.
pizza is?
Yeah,
The
the sauce is on top of the
okay,
cheese.
I want to get something out to Steven first.
Go for it.
Steven, can you hook us up with Michael Pekka?
It's funny. Every time I've seen Michael Pekka, I've seen him in a bathroom. I know that kind of sounds a little weird, but
No, the reason I asked you that is because I was listening to him this morning on your show, and I thought he was excellent. Like
not
I
my
thought he was
show.
excellent.
So I honestly got no connections there.
Oh,
Whose show was that?
it said Daily Faceoff. I don't know.
Oh, but it was part of his company.
Yeah, it was part of the
Okay.
company. Yeah, part of
Yeah.
the company. But I thought he was excellent. I mean, he's now coaching, but just to listen to him describe younger players and development and all that kind of stuff, I think it would be worth all of our listeners. I swear to God, I thought he was great.
that.
I played against him, and then they had to ask him about the Buffalo goal. And naturally he's got his BS reason, which I would love to debate that with him. But regardless, he was really, really good. So anyway, go ahead, you guys. I just
you
wanted
go.
to get that
Well, I
out.
appreciate that.
Well done.
Stephen, we are thrilled to talk about the draft because we're doing a 3-hour draft show tomorrow night, and the Stars do not have a pick. We are a DLS Stars podcast. We're going to talk for the entire first round, and I do not expect Dallas to trade into said first round. In fact, as of right now, they don't have a pick until 94th overall, which is in the 4th round. So, of course, everybody's dying to know, what can Dallas Stars fans possibly expect from pick number 94?
That's a deep one. Hey, there's going to be some decent picks there. Like my number 94 prospect was Bryce Pickford. He's a double H guy out of the Medicine Hat Tigers. He just had something like 13 goals in 18 playoff games as a defenseman.
Wow.
He knows how to move the puck. I could see him going much higher. One guy I really like, Ryan Miller. He's not a goaltender, but he's a winger in this case. He's just so tenacious. He wants to attack people. He's got some speed and skill, and maybe go for Drew Shock if you want another defenseman. So are you getting a sure NHL player? Absolutely not. Are you getting some value guys? Maybe. I don't know how you guys are going to fill a show with nothing about the team to talk about, but hey, maybe we get chaos based off. I was just left the arena not long ago, or the media area, and it seems like we're going to get a lot of chaos tomorrow.
That was my next question.
Go for it.
I was just going to say, what are you keeping an eye on, and your general thoughts going into this?
Is Anton Frundell going number 2? That's the big question here. Is he going ahead of Michael Misa? I think I would not take him over Michael Misa, but when it looked like people I was talking to 2 days ago were saying Frundell was a lock to be in the top 3, it's now looking a lot more like he might be number 2. From there, does Jake O'Brien go number 5 to Nashville? Could that spice things up? Where does Brady Martin go? How far does James Haggins fall? So there's going to be a lot of very interesting picks, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like I always say, I don't believe the trade rumors for draft picks until they actually happen, because every year it's like, are they going to trade down? Are they going to move up? It just doesn't happen in the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like 3 moves in the top 10. Like Utah is a team to watch for sure. I'm surprised they didn't have to get rid of that pick in that Paterka trade. You look at maybe Nashville number 5. Maybe the Islanders try to trade Noah Dobson to a team like Nashville or Boston and maybe get one of their picks. So there's going to be a lot of interesting moves, I think.
Well, speaking of Nashville, There's a local kid here, and a commodity nowadays is a right-handed defenseman. What are your thoughts on Fiddler? And I think he's probably in the. Is he even near the middle, high end of the first 30 there? 25, 26. Is that where he's projected to go, or what's your feelings?
I think he'll go as high as maybe number 22 to Philadelphia. I know the Flyers are very likely going to take a defenseman in the first round, and that would feel like they wouldn't be trying to bite up there a little bit. Depending on who Nashville takes, maybe if they take a forward at the first pick, they take a guy like Fiddler. So I think the 22 to 25 is really where it feels like. If you look at him, like there's a bit of a drop off defensively after that. So if your team really needs a defenseman, I don't think they're going to hope that he's back in the second round. So yeah, it seems like probably in the early 20s is where it feels like he's going to land.
Is his biggest upside his size, or because I've watched him play. I mean, he's been here and he was here most recently in the U18 things and things like that. I mean, obviously the size is intriguing to anybody, any kid that's 6'4", 6'5", right hand. He's got good reach. I just worry about the skating ability. And again, they can all skate way better than we ever could. But is that on par with what you would see from other defensemen in the top, in the top there?
Yeah, like this is not a strong year for drafting defensemen. Ironically, the guy who's going to be taken first overall is going to be a defenseman in Matthew Schaefer. But I'd say there's no like superior element of Fiddler's game outside of his size. Like he's fine hockey sense. He's got fine puck skills. Just he's a good playmaker, a decent skater, not a great skater. Like there's nothing about him that's like super high end. So that I think for him is. It doesn't really help him, but when you're a 6'4" defenseman who he put up 33 points this year, 10 goals, I can see him moving that up 15 points next year in the WHL, assuming that's where he sticks around, and I think that will be interesting. So I feel like, yeah, the size is the real attractiveness here, especially when you're looking in the 20s. There's not a ton of like surefire first round picks.
See, the one thing you can't teach is size.
Yeah,
right.
It's a cliche.
Trust me,
It's true.
Let me ask you about Anton Frundell, since Luds brought up the U18s and you were talking about where he was going to go. I am not a draft expert. I do not spend a lot of time on prospects simply because you can't cover the NHL the way that we do and have time to do that. Even if we were true sickos, you have to go to sleep. Well, except for Luds. Luds just hangs upside down.
If I had 24 hours a day for 365 days a year, I still wouldn't.
Exactly.
I don't know.
That's why we have guys like Stephen Ellis.
But Stephen, I did get a chance to watch Frundell play at the U18s in Frisco, both the semis and the finals. I didn't see the early group stage games for them. And of course, he was the big name, especially out of Sweden, for that tournament. And maybe because of that, I was expecting to see him pop on the ice. I didn't really see that. And I know Sean, our fourth member who pops in and out, also works for Elite Prospects, and they had him rated a little bit lower than a lot of other places had. So I guess I'm curious, what do you see from Frundell? Because clearly he's a talented player, right? But when you get the guys at the top, whether it's a Matthew Schaefer, Misa, Frundell, those guys, you want to see them look like the genuine article, right? The guys that stand out amongst even the best international teenagers on the planet. And it just didn't for me. Is that just me, or did you see something similar there?
No question about it. Like internationally, it felt like we were kind of hoping for more from him all year long. But I guess with a bit more context, like when he started that tournament, I think it was against the United States, he had just flown over from Sweden and basically, if my understanding, had almost no sleep and basically was thrown into the fire right away. So he had to play a bit of catch up, and it's never easy for a guy to come in mid-tournament and have to figure out a system, where the Swedish team had already been playing together for like a couple of weeks at that point, kind of preparing for this. So it felt like he was kind of thrown into it. I thought he got better, maybe in the semifinal, but overall he was not a dominant tournament, and it opened up some concerns. Yeah, it's a small sample size, and he looked very good in the Allsvenskan. He put almost a point per game, and it was just point per game performance alone was one of the most productive guys that we've ever seen in that second tier Swedish league. On the other hand, the one thing that's really not a strength of his right now is his skating. Like, you look at the comparables and people will say Barkov, and I don't think Frundell's anywhere near there in the way that he skates out there. So that's the case. But he's got good hockey sense. He's probably the best power forward in this draft. He's very competitive. He does a good job of supporting guys defensively. And you ask any Swedish player to talk about Frundell, and they rave about him like they all want to be his agent. You know, it's kind of like they're super supportive of him more than any player I think I've ever heard get supported like that. So they always talk about how just difficult of a player he is to play against. And if he goes number 2, that would not be my pick. I understand going number 3, but number 2, you'd be passing on a guy like Michael Misa, who just put up 134 points in the OHL this year. Something ridiculous. So we'll see.
That's the part that in that semifinal against the United States, it was a great game. It was back and forth, very entertaining. And toward the end, when the U.S. fell behind and they were chasing, Sweden did not play Frundell, right? So when people bring up the Barkov and you think about all the defensive abilities that he has, again, it's unfair because they're comps and it's not like he's going to be exactly the same player. But the Swedish head coach didn't even move Frundell off the bench those final 5 or 6 minutes. They were, Eklund looked really good. I thought he was impressive. A couple other Swedes were rolling. Frundell was nowhere to be seen late when they needed to defend that 1-goal lead.
Yeah, it felt like he was never 100% health-wise or whatever. And because you look, that was a pretty brutal playoff he had to go through in the Allsvenskan, where it was just tough matchups for him every single night. And then you go and watch him in the U18s. It looked like he was drained. It looked like he just was nowhere near the type of player. So that's why, to me, it's one data point in the rest of the season, and you look at the whole campaign and say, he was relied on actually to play a lot of key situations against men this year, which is very, very rare for a player his age. He was one of 2 guys his age that basically were full-time players in the Allsvenskan. So the fact that he played as much as he did there is why I'm not too concerned about how the U18s ended. But at the same time, it wasn't a good tournament for him. He didn't look great. And I know for a fact he definitely fell off of some draft boards because of that, or fell lower on draft boards, because for a guy that's, can be competitive and could use his size, he wasn't even doing that. It didn't look like we were watching Anton Frundell in the Anton Frundell jersey.
Interesting. Well, we have to take a quick ad break, so hang on, Stephen. We'll get right back to you here on DLS in mere moments. First, we go to the bucket hat guy. He's ready.
Point to me. Let's talk about Empire Today. My favorite, the first ad read I ever did, I believe, here at DLS.
You sang it.
I sang the whole thing for you guys. But just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts. EXPERTS. That did not sound like I spelled it right. Dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Why is Empire Today your best bet for a new floor? Because they live and breathe flooring. We've been to those box stores where you go, you do everything yourself. You got someone there who's helping you with flooring, who was maybe doing sinks or stocking light bulbs the day before. Not with Empire Today. They do everything flooring, and they do it the best. It's a whole different ballgame. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home so you can check out what any piece looks like in your home around your furniture, so you don't have to have any questions when making your decisions. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. DLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLS. Heard that right. That is a $350 discount with code DLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLS for details.
You say 350?
$350 discount.
350.
Yeah.
Do you have to buy that? Do you have to buy flooring? Can you go get beer with it? Or?
I don't think so. I think
if you have savings, might as well.
Flooring.
So you don't get $350 put in.
You don't give you cash.
Oh.
No.
Let's go to True Fan Travel for a minute, guys, because we're heading to Las Vegas with True Fan Travel for the ultimate fan experience. DLS is taking over the Strip for an unforgettable weekend in Vegas, and you need to be there. Join us as the Cowboys take on the Raiders on November 17th. This all-inclusive trip includes a 3-night stay at a luxury Vegas resort, game tickets, VIP parties, and exclusive events with the DLS Cowboys crew and fellow diehard fans, and much more. This is how Dallas does Vegas. Book now at truefantravel.com. All right, let's bring Stephen back from, at least he didn't have to sit through the entire Mando read, although that was pretty funny. Luds, you were at the game. I don't know how much you were glad-handing and how much you were watching that semifinal between the U.S. and Sweden at the U18s in Frisco. But you mentioned you can't teach size. One of the players that did stand out to me on Team USA was former Dallas Star, although I don't know if you would necessarily introduce him as that first, maybe Edmonton Oiler, but former Dallas Star Sean Horkoff's son, Will. 6'4", plays at University of Michigan. Will Horkoff, I couldn't help but notice throughout that game. I don't know if you felt the same way. I definitely want to get Steven's thoughts on him.
Well, I'd like Steven's thoughts on him, it kind of leads in what I was going to ask you anyway, Steven, the news of the day here is captain gets re-signed. Jamie Benn gets signed for a year. So if Jim Nill has the ability to pull off a pick let's just say in the first 2 rounds, besides the Horkoff, or is it Horkoff, who's a player that you could bring into this organization that could kind of take a Jamie Benn kind of role in 2 to 3 years from now?
Oh, that's a great question.
I think that's all I ask her. My favorite line.
We need that on a T-shirt.
Love it. Horkoff probably is gone by pick 32. That's my guess. I think teams are looking at the fact that he looked so good in college. Like, he didn't look like the same player from when he started the year with the U.S. National Team Development Program. He looked angrier. He looked bigger. Like, he had like 20-something pounds by the end of the season. He was more competitive. He's way more confident. He's also got one of the best hairdos, I think, in the draft. So I think that Horkoff would be one that'd be tough. Beyond that, it's a great question. Riker Lee is one name I'd keep an eye out for. He's a guy that...
Well, maybe I should ask you, Steven, are there any more players like Jamie Benn out there in today's game?
Maybe Shane Van Sage? Maybe?
That's a little squeaky voice, Sarah. I don't know if you're believing that.
Well, the problem is, I think you could probably teach a 5-year-old to skate a little better than he can at this point. But he's got this ability, like, he's going to be a pro's pro. He probably isn't going to score a ton of goals, but he's a guy that will make sure that you do not lose any shifts out there. You put him out there with skilled guys, he'll handle the dirty work. He's as competitive as they come, good playmaker, things like that. I don't know if there's any others that would come to mind. Like, Ivan Ryabkin is one of the more interesting names in this year's draft because he was a projected top 5 prospect heading into the year. Another guy who's just not great skater, but he's like strong. He's mean. He's 5'11" and like close to 210 pounds. But he's also got a bullet of a shot. He could score. The one thing about him was a lot of the talk after the draft combine was that he did not do very well in his interviews. A lot of teams are a little scared of him right now, aren't really liking the attitude side of things. But he was on pace for something like in a full season in the USHL, like 40-ish goals and like 130 penalty minutes for a 5'11" guy. You don't find a guys like that. He's very intense. I'll be interested to see kind of what happens with him.
Steven, I'm curious. We talked a little bit about the Stars having no picks. We'll be harping on that tomorrow. But if you are, it's kind of a two-part question because I'm for the fans and for the team. If you're the Dallas Stars, you're Jim Nill. I think I have it right here. 94, 126, 146, 158, 190, and 222 are your picks. Way back at the end of the draft. How do you approach it as the Dallas Stars organization?
Punt.
Go home and enjoy the free time. Yeah, I think with this, you're looking at I guess they're technically to be home as it is. I think you're going for just pure value. Don't draft for need, just go for pure value. And, you could get guys like an older player like Bruno Idzon, who could be the highest drafted Croatian player of all time. Like, unbelievable shot, great hockey sense, kind of came out of nowhere this year. Like, maybe a bet on him as opposed to someone who's, let's say you want a defenseman. You're probably not going to find a great defenseman. Maybe you go get a Shamar Moses, a guy who is very competitive. He's just built like a tank. Like, you're looking for guys that you hope can become NHL players in some way, whether it be a third liner or a fourth liner. Like, you're looking for any bit of upside you could possibly find because you're going to get these guys. Like, Kevin He is a perfect example of a guy that Winnipeg drafted last year who had this monster season. Or actually, I'll give a better one that Winnipeg drafted. Kieran Walton, 6'6", didn't put up many points last year, was on no one's draft boards. He was one of the best players in the CHL this year. Came out of nowhere. Now, all of a sudden, he's one of Winnipeg's best prospects. Winnipeg was betting on the fact that he's a 6'6" center that can skate. So you're looking for guys like that. You're looking for a Shamar Moses. You're looking for maybe a Victor Klingsell, who tons of talent, one of Sweden's most skilled players in this year's draft, but he's 5'9" and like an okay skater. Well, maybe you hope that he could become something, or maybe you pick a goalie. Like this year, there's a lot of good goalies. So there's so many different aspects, but don't draft for need. Draft for upside. If you'd only have a couple picks, try and hope one of those guys can kind of really make it work.
In that vein, Sean wrote an interesting piece for our website about kind of what Sam is talking about. The fact that they don't have a lot of availability early in the draft. They don't have any. And so, but there's been a conversation that he and I have been having for a couple years now. And I want to get your sort of theoretical thoughts on, or philosophical, I should say, about drafting past the first 3 rounds, because it feels like maybe in the last decade, 10 to 15 years, there's been a huge shift in the global coverage of hockey scouting, meaning there are a lot fewer blind spots in the world of prospects than there used to be. You're not finding Jamie Benns in the 5th round anymore. You're not going to get Henrik Lundqvist in the 7th round, or a Pavel Datsyuk that nobody has heard of before, something like that. It seems like, there are exceptions, right? This isn't a blanket statement, but that most of the NHL regulars are being taken in the top 3 rounds. And a lot fewer of rounds 4 through 7 are making substantial NHL impacts. Now, it doesn't mean they aren't great players, right? Because you need guys to play on your AHL team. You have guys playing ECHL. That's so hard to get to AA hockey as a pro. So I'm not looking down at that. But from a Dallas Stars NHL club perspective, Sean's idea was take goalies and take 3 or 4 goalies every year, because you never know. It's harder to figure out who they're going to hit. And if you end up with a surplus of goalies that are NHL capable, that's great capital for other things that you can do with your roster. But how would you go about, aside from just the value versus need in late round picks, how would you go around assessing what value actually exists in those 4 through 7?
Draft a goalie every year. Like, I'd say no matter what, as long as you got more than 2 picks, draft a goalie every year, because goaltenders are obviously the hardest position to scout, to develop. And yeah, you want to take any upswings you possibly can. Like, I know a couple Russian goalies this year kind of rose up the ranks recently, as they became more visible. And like European guys in general, because the scouting departments are much smaller out there, you do find some goalies that just kind of come out of nowhere 2-3 years into their development. You're like, whoa, okay, that's impressive. And you're kind of trying to take advantage of that. And I know like Toronto's the local team for me. And I've seen Toronto the last couple of years take swings on goalies that might have a flaw or might not play a lot in their draft year, but have that size or that athleticism. And you're like, okay, like in the right situation, the right development curve, this guy could be something for us. Dennis Hildeby is a good example for that recently. So yeah, goalies 100% take one every year, especially this year where there are a ton of good goalies. Like Love Herenstam is a guy who's like 6 foot, but he's not very big, but he rose to prominence a couple of years ago when he was playing like U18 hockey at like 15 or 16 years old. He kind of fell a bit this year, didn't really look that great at the U18s as Sweden's goalie, and got replaced by Mans Goose, who's got one of the best names in the draft. And I think for him, you would look at the fact that he was so highly touted at so many levels, kind of fell flat this year. Maybe you try and hope that he can find that again. He could be this nice value pick. So for me, always draft a goalie. And at the very worst, it's a trade chip, because teams are always looking for goalies.
I'm curious, Steven, we were just talking about this before, decentralized draft. Your thoughts, and if you think it's going to happen again next year?
Given the number of NHL GMs I've seen walking around the last couple of days, it's like, why are we bothering with this decentralized? You ask around, and it feels like we're going to get back to a normal draft next year. I would not be surprised if it's in Montreal again. I feel like we're going to get Nashville probably back in the rotation. Like, I assume it's going to be a rotation of cities, and maybe not just kind of going all over the place. Maybe they're looking for specific venues. I know Vegas was super popular last year. Like, walking into the Sphere, like that was the coolest thing. Like, if you weren't there, like it's hard to put into words how cool that was. So yeah, let's not do that again. Let's not have fun with that. I don't know what the theater's going to look like Friday or Saturday. We'll see. But
wait, did you say that you've bumped into quite a few NHL GMs in LA?
There was, I know Joe Sakic's been around, and there's been a few guys around. It's like interesting.
Are they going back to their war rooms, or are they setting up locally in LA?
So they did the Board of Governors meeting. So some of them, and there were some other people that work for teams involved in Board of Governors meeting, and then those people have now, for the most part, gone home. So yeah, there's that. But it's interesting, because it seems like even before this draft format got announced, I know teams were looking and saying, did we make a mistake? And then they go to Vegas and it's like, yeah, we did. I just don't know if people want Vegas again because of how expensive that trip is for teams. And that's not even including people gambling their money away. So we'll see. I know LA is pretty expensive here too.
All right.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint Stephen, and I have no more great questions to ask.
Well, you only
Okay.
ask great
You only ask
questions.
great
I'll
ones.
defer.
Sam, do you want the last one before
That
we
was
say
it. That was my last
that
one.
was it? Oh,
Decentralized draft.
perfect. Yeah. My last one for you is I happened to listen to Matthew Schaefer for the first time today as I was driving in. And again, not a prospect guy, don't spend a lot of time on it. And I was amazed for a kid his age, how well he admitted he was talking with the 32 Thoughts guys. And he was talking about how he's sure his first media interview was he couldn't string a sentence together. I don't know if that was exactly true, but sure, clearly he's gotten better. But for a kid who's gone through quite a bit, lost his mother a couple years ago, to be able to speak at 18 so eloquently about grief and loss and motivation of that, I can see why people are pretty high on this kid. Is he as bona fide 1-1 as people have been talking about?
First time I ever talked to him, he was 15 years old. It was after the OHL Cup and one of the bigger AAA tournaments we have in Ontario. And you could tell the maturity, but you could tell at the same time, like, he was very raw. And like you said, like he didn't know how to string words together in a sentence. Yeah, it felt like that for sure. But he had to go through so much because it wasn't just his mother, it was also his billet mother. And then like last year it was the owner of the Erie Otters, and he's had his own injuries. Like there's been so many reasons to be negative or just quiet, and that's never been him. You ask teammates that he played with, past and present, and they'll say like he's an unbelievable person. He's a great human being. And then you see the hockey stuff out there too. And I think the maturity is definitely something teams took a look at and said, yeah, like this guy's incredible. But then you see that offensive ability, and you see the guy he loves to watch the most is Miro Heiskanen. And I see a lot of Miro Heiskanen. I see him being a guy like him and that type of magnitude, someone who should be in the Norris Trophy conversation for years to come. And by the way, Miro Heiskanen's too underrated across the league. But yeah, like I feel like, I think Schaefer's going to be a guy that we're talking about for a long, long time, being a true game changer.
Well, we really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to us today, Stephen. It's great to meet you individually. I'm not going to speak for those two bozos, but I know your Super Bowl is coming up tomorrow and the next day, and hopefully the decentralized goes well, because I have a feeling it's not going to last very long.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, guys.
There's Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff. We will be right here for one more segment here on DLS Talking Coaching. But first, let's talk about being a DLLS diehard. I said it at the top of the show, and I will repeat it now. We have the Make Your Move introductory offer going on right now. See that QR code at the bottom of the screen? Right over there. Right there. Sam could probably find it with his left hand.
Yeah, I'm pointing. I'm literally using the wrong hand.
Try. Well, now you moved it. Yeah. Now Luds can show you how to do it easily.
That's what I was going for.
Scan that QR code. That will get you. There it is. Oh, now that Elijah's having fun with you now. $36 introductory offer. This is going on now because of the NHL and NBA drafts. Literally, last night, tonight in the NBA, tomorrow and Saturday in the NHL. And then, of course, the free agency. The silly season is very much upon us, and we have a lot to get to over the next week or so with that. You don't want to miss any of it. Become a diehard today. If you haven't signed up before, this is the best offer you'll get as far as the biggest discount. You get a free t-shirt to go with it. What t-shirt would you pick? Well, there's a lot of those t-shirts. Elijah, do you have that Cooper Flag shirt that they just came out with last night? That's kind of a cool one. I know this is a Stars show, but the Mavs took Cooper Flag with the first overall pick. He's the highest ever and second ever player drafted in the NBA out of my home state of Maine. First one since 1984 when Jeff Turner went 17th overall to the New Jersey Nets. I learned that last night, Sam. Nice. But there's the Cooper Flag shirt. What about the Dallas Stars shirts? We've got some great looking Dallas Stars shirts that you could pick as part of being a diehard. Look at there. There's the Moose. There's the captain. Of course, he just re-signed. Jake Ottinger's Otter shirt. I think that one is wonderful. We've got the finisher. We've got Wyatt Johnston, the 16-bit graphic one. And the one I wore yesterday, that Finnish Mafia, which is great. You got that Texas flag, Finnish flag, both there. Sign up to be a diehard today. Catch up all the writing. Sam's doing a weekly piece now of sort of summarizing everything for the Stars. And that doesn't even include the Cowboys, the Rangers. There's that other team, the Mavs we were just talking about, the Wings. alldls.com. Check it out today. Okay, last part of our show, we have to keep talking about the coaching search, the Stars head coaching search, because it feels like it could happen at any moment.
Yep.
Sam, I don't know if you've checked Twitter in the last 10 or 15 minutes, but I have not seen anything that suggests that all of a sudden they've decided to name a head coach. So, as Sean said in our first emergency pod, it feels like we might have to do another one today.
Well, I was just going to say, it'd be nice if they would before we get done with this one, so we don't have to do another emergency deal. So
I'm
please.
always curious where you're going to be when we do that one, though.
I'm curious where I'm going to be, too.
Yeah. So the news of the day on the Stars coaching search comes from Darren Drager, who tweeted out, quote, "Sounds like the Dallas Stars are finalizing their head coaching decision." And he goes on to write, Glen Gulutzan and Neil Graham are believed to be favored, which is a very careful sentence in the sense that he didn't say they're the two finalists.
He basically didn't say anything.
That's right.
These guys are ridiculous.
But it stirs the pot. So, Luds, I wanted to ask you, and Sam, I want to ask you as well, this question. I understand that they're in on Neil Graham. Personally, I don't think Neil Graham's going to be the Dallas Stars head coach. I really don't.
Agreed.
And that's not a shot at Neil at all. I think he's a very good young coach. He's been in the Stars organization 13 years. He's still in his mid-30s. So he's young by NHL coaching standards. Glen Gulutzan has been the head coach of the Dallas Stars before, and some fans have been really grumbly about his previous stint behind the bench for Dallas. He's also was the head coach of the Calgary Flames before being in Vancouver and now in Edmonton. So he has done the Pacific Northwest. I mean, unless he got signed by Seattle at some point.
Who hired Gully?
I believe it was Joe Newendike, was it not?
Yes.
Your old teammate?
What time frame?
Well, and that's
was he GM in?
I wanted to
The
bring that up,
bankrupt
Les,
time frame.
because for the people that are down on Gulutzan
hold
during
that against
2011 to 2013, would you just describe from your perspective what was going on with the franchise
Well, I can describe it.
during that?
It was a shit show. I mean, Maddie said shit all day yesterday, so I can say it a couple times.
You feel like you have a couple in the tank.
No, I mean, and I said this about
Josh is
Newey at
adding
the
the
time.
E.
Like, Joe, come on in and please be our GM, but then we're going to put handcuffs on you, and you're not going to be able to spend any money.
Yeah.
And then so you bring in a coach in Gully, young and give and say here you go.
Who had a really good record with the Texas Stars
Yeah.
before that.
And I think when I
Take
look
away
at
some of his best players.
yes, and I look at Gully and I look at who he's been working with. And when you've got superstars there in Edmonton and you're in charge of the power play, okay, that's one of your big responsibilities. And to be able to handle those guys and understand how to deal with those kind of guys. There's similar guys here. I'm not saying they're McDavid and Draisaitl, but they're similar guys.
Well, they've got
here.
Rantanen and Robertson, Miro.
So I just think that, like any other coach, he's learned so much.
Oh, yeah.
And he's learned under different general managers. He's been involved with a couple different general managers, all different kinds of players. And again, knowing where you're at here. So, I mean, if you would ask me, and I don't know Neil at all, and so I would just lean towards Gully for sure. But just from the standpoint of being on that bench and having, he got his feet wet, although it wasn't at a great time, he got his feet wet with that kind of a role. Now which was like taking a step backwards. And so he kind of paid his dues getting to a certain point.
What do you say to the people that say that, and I'm not making this claim, but I'm just I've seen some of this on our chat, which is, of course he's going to have a good record as a power play coach. He has McDavid, Draisaitl,
That's fair.
Bouchard.
Yeah.
Does that dismiss what he's done, or is that
No,
expectation?
that's easy to answer. You learn from those guys.
Yeah.
More than telling them what to do, you learn from those guys, and you learn what McDavid does and what Draisaitl. And you could say that these guys are just naturals. Well, yeah, but they've got to work with three other guys on the ice there. And so when you're the kind of the choreographing guy trying to put that all together, I think you learn things. And when you learn things from those best players on the planet, and you've got some pretty damn good players here too, I think you can bring some of those things in here. And I also think that Gully's probably learned how to handle those players, not just on the power play, but how you interact with them.
Yep.
And also be able to hold them accountable. You're not hands off. At times you've got to say, Connor, yeah, you may have wanted it there, but you're not in the right spot. You have to be over here. And so I think that those guys that come with that as a background can step in, see some similarities of players that they have here, and be able to relate to them. But he also has to. You have to know what buttons to push with certain players because they're not all the same.
Yeah.
And I think those are just some of the things that he's probably learned, throughout the years now.
Yeah, and he's learned. I think Robert Tiffin wrote about this. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but it reminded me. Gulutzan has talked about how much he's learned to not overcoach things. Like when he was here, he was trying to tic-tac-toe everything, and like you said, he was handcuffed. He had lost Brad Richards. He had lost all of his best players. He had no money to spend with Joe Newman. It was a very tough situation for him. He's learned a lot throughout the years to be able to know when to do that, when to step back, when to play boring hockey. I think he calls it road hockey, I think is the term he uses, when to play that simple game and when to maybe talk about X's and O's and things like that. But for me, I think the answer, and it might be obvious, but I think the answer is both for this question here. I think hire Glen Gulutzan as the head coach, bring Neil Graham up to run your power play because he's also a power play guy, keep Elaine, Nazardine, and Misha as your other assistants. That's a very good coaching staff. And Jeff Reese, obviously. Yep. That's a very good coaching staff that you have. Not only do you have a power play expert like we had in Steve's spot, you have two power play experts. One is a head coach who can help a young Neil Graham that hasn't been up to the NHL. You have a defensive coach who's run one of the best power plays over the years and one of the better defenses. You can bring in hopefully new system and play a little bit differently. That gives you all the tools you need. And then maybe you're grooming Neil Graham down the road to be your head coach. I just think that's the answer here and the best way to approach it. And that's what I think they're going to do. I don't think Neil Graham can jump up and be an NHL head coach for this franchise, for a Chicago Blackhawks team, but not for this franchise.
But would you let Gully, because you just gave him 3 assistant coaches, you would let him bring somebody with him should he say
right if he wants to? Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
Because again, he's been with a lot of different coaches since he's been here, and don't say this is his second kick at the can. It's not. It's his first kick at the can with good management, good ownership to start with. With good ownership, good management, and there's a lot of things in place here in the city. He knows the city and things like that. So if it is down to those two, and again, like I said, I'm not talking about not giving the job to Graham, but that might be the right answer is what you're saying. Now you've got both of them here. And do they know each other from history or
not sure? I know they both.
I think all coaches know each other
paths,
somehow.
So I would be surprised if they didn't. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what the fan reaction is. I know that's not Jim Nill's primary objective. He's trying to get the best coach to win now and going forward.
When you say that, why do you think the fans have a clear choice?
No, I don't know if they have a clear choice, but I think that they could be excited. Like we talked about David Carl a lot. I think that because they've gone out and gotten Jim Montgomery before, I think fans might be excited because he's sort of the next big thing in the youth, the college ranks. If you hired a guy, I mentioned to you about talking about Joel Quenneville before he went to Anaheim, or any of the names that right? Like, for example, they're different guys, so I'm not advocating for any of them, but Tortorella, Laviolette, Gerard Gallant, these guys, there might be some name recognition, whereas people clearly will remember Glen Gulutzan because he was the Stars coach briefly, but I don't know if he is the guy that all the talking heads go, hey, he's your guy up on top of the pedestal. I'm not trying to diminish his abilities. I think he's a very good coach that had a bad situation here, had a pretty good team his first year in Calgary, and then they started to chip away at that.
He's had one winning season.
Yeah,
they won.
And that was that first year with the Flames.
Yeah, his first
where
year
he had Huberdeau and Kachuk or whatever. He had not Huberdeau. Sorry, he had Gaudreau and Kachuk and some that big Flames team back in the day. But I just wonder, do you think that it matters is it with a guy like Gulutzan or anybody who's not a super well-known NHL head coach? The proof is really in the results moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, again,
it's a wait and see.
Yeah. I don't know where you're going to go with that, but my point is he just deserves a fresh start.
I agree.
As a head guy, and I think he's paid his dues. Most of these guys do pay their dues, regardless. So I would like to see him get the job if those are the two guys that are there. And who knows? When you bring up Torts, I think about Torts, and I like guys like that. Listen, I had Ken Hitchcock, and Torts is hard on his guys, but I think they respect him for it. But I think Torts is probably more for a guy when you're kind of trying to mold players and things like that.
Same thing when Eddie was talking about playing with Mike Keenan.
Yeah, and Laviolette, again, over a ton of games. He's got championships, that old kind of stuff. But he he likes that same kind of system in
Does.
New York. So,
Yep.
I don't know.
That's the only thing I'll say to your point about fans is the fans are like we are. They want change, right? They think there needs to be some more change. That doesn't move the needle for them, I think. That's the big issue that I see with Glen Gulutzan.
Gulutzan signing or even a Neil Graham, honestly, wouldn't feel like
they
there's
want
enough.
that big, we are making a huge change. We know we need to get the next step. They want that feeling, and I don't believe either of these names going to give it to them. You might not get it, fans.
Well, we'll have to wait and see because there's a lot still to be done from the Stars front office before we can get into the quote-unquote cottage season, although Luds is going to get a head start here after the weekend of getting out of the Texas heat for a few months. So we'll get to that. But tomorrow, draft show, no regular pod. We will be live here. We'll do a watch-along for the first round of the draft from 6 o'clock until it ends. Sean will be here to start, and we'll pop back in a little bit. Robert Tiffin is going to join us again. Mike Heika will join in. He'll be up in Frisco covering the draft from the Stars headquarters there, and maybe some other guests that we will also have. So big thank you to Stephen Ellis for joining us today. He was great. Sam, they probably can't hear you through your hat now. We've got Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler, our producer Elijah Smith. I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us once again. We'll see you tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, and then again on Saturday afternoon, time a little flexible toward the end of day 2 of the NHL draft. We'll see you right here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.